Hello and welcome back to the Manufacturing Culture Podcast. I'm your host, Jim Mayer, and today we have an incredibly exciting episode lined up for you. But before we dive in, a quick reminder to check us out at themfgconnector.com. And don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. Anyway, today we are thrilled to have Amy Teal, the dynamic CEO and co-founder of ShopFloor Coffee, joining us. Amy is on a mission to revolutionize the coffee scene for our hardworking friends in manufacturing. With her team, Amy isn't just brewing exceptional coffee, she's fueling a movement that gives back to the manufacturing community. Every pound of shop floor coffee sold supports workforce development programs, ensuring that the folks who keep the gears turning get the support they deserve. Amy's journey is a fascinating blend of technical expertise and creative vision. She combines a background in drafting and design with a marketing degree from Colorado State Global Campus, go Rams, bringing a unique mix of precision, innovation, and strategic insight to her entrepreneurial ventures. Raised and currently residing in the western Minneapolis suburbs, Amy has mastered the art of navigating Minnesota winters and cherishing the state's beautiful 3 months of summer. Beyond her professional life, Amy is all about balance and adventure. Whether she's crushing morning workouts, exploring new cultures through travel, or unwinding with a good book, Amy embraces a well-rounded approach to life. This mirrors her dedication to making a meaningful impact in the manufacturing community, one cup of coffee at a time. Get ready for an inspiring conversation about leadership, innovation, and the power of giving back. Amy is here to share her journey, her experiences, and her vision for the future. Let's welcome Amy Teal to the Manufacturing Culture Podcast. Amy Teal, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Great. Thanks for that awesome intro, Jim. That was awesome.
You're very welcome. So, Amy, tell us your story. How did your journey into manufacturing begin overall, and what sparked the idea to start ShopFloor Coffee with such a unique mission that you're on?
Yeah, it's a great question. And my journey has definitely been a winding road. It's not a straight path by any means. So
Those are my favorite.
I know it's more interesting that way. It gives you more things to talk about. But right after high school, I went to cosmetology school and I did hair for a very short period of time and realized that is not going to be the career for me. And that was what inspired me to go back to school for drafting and design. I loved it. I enjoyed what I was doing, and it kind of kickstarted my work in project management and really identifying how to move a project through a process. And so then from that associate's degree, I was able to get some jobs in project management, project coordination, and some different things within an IT company. But I didn't love it. It didn't feel like my right place. And so I bounced around a little bit. I did some inside sales jobs. So I did a bunch of cold calling and trying to chase people for contracts and all of that. And that's how I ended up finding my way into 3D printing. And that was my first entrance into manufacturing. And it opened my eyes to a whole different aspect of work life and what that could look like and being able to enjoy it. And it just felt like a really good fit for me. But I will tell you, those first 2 years, I was doing more inside sales activities. And I went to my first trade show after 2 years of being with the company. And I learned more in that 1 week than I had in my entire 2 years. And that's when I'm like, this is what I want to do. I want to talk to people about what this industry is and what 3D printing is and how it can impact the world. And that was what got me into marketing and marketing for manufacturing. So long, windy path. Several years later, after being in manufacturing or in additive manufacturing and doing marketing, I had a kind of a career change. And I was sitting with my co-founder, Mike Franz, over a cup of coffee talking about manufacturing and the skills gap. And we attend these events and we continue to hear that workforce development is an issue. Who's that future workforce? And that's when we started talking about how do we get back? And over that cup of coffee, you start talking about how that brings community together. And a lot of people complain about the coffee. Jim, I don't know about you, but you go to some facilities and you're like, this is terrible coffee. And
It's
we want to make that
horrible.
better. People deserve good coffee. So that's where we're coming in with a product that a lot of people drink. And it's a great way that we can give back to the community.
I love it. I love it. And I've actually got my shop floor tumbler here, the
Love
FNG.
it.
That
Yes.
is something that I had to explain to my children what the FNG is, which was a fun and interesting conversation, but
Yeah.
it was needed nonetheless, right?
Well, Jim, it's the fun new guy. Fun new guy.
Oh, all right. I like
Yes.
it. I'm not smart enough to have made that switch on the fly. So I did tell them what, okay. Well done.
Yeah.
You're, yeah, dad fail or win, who knows?
Nope. That's right. They're going to learn it eventually, so might as well introduce it and say when it's appropriate to talk about that. But the alternative is the fun new guy or gal.
Yeah, I like it. And I will say it's great coffee. We've enjoyed it. It is good coffee. It's not just garbage like you do see at some of these shops, right? So it is a way for people to up their coffee game at their shop. So how, tell us more specifically how this impacts the industry. How does shop floor impact those workforce development efforts?
Yeah. So right now we are, well, we will be forever. We're going to give 20% of our proceeds back to workforce development initiatives. Right now, we have a certain group of organizations that we are donating to, and I believe we have 5 that are on our website right now. Those we're going to continue to evolve and modify as we hear and receive feedback around organizations that are really making an impact. The thing that I didn't realize was going to be so hard about this mission is there are so many great organizations that are trying to help workforce development that it's incredibly difficult to figure out who to pick and choose and where to donate and what to make happen. So that's something that I've taken on, and I want to try and get a roadmap figured out around how we can plan to do this better, and make a bigger impact and try and help as many folks throughout the U.S. as we can.
That's awesome.
So it's going to continue to evolve. So bear with us as we do that, and always open to hearing feedback.
Well, I'll give you some feedback. One of those 5 organizations is Skill Up Arizona, which is the apprenticeship and scholarship foundation here in Arizona. I happen to be president of the board here, and we can't thank you enough for the support that you've shown us. Unbelievable. You're helping us not only with the apprenticeship programs and offset the costs of that, but we're a scholarship foundation. So anybody who's not going through the machining apprenticeship program, we offer scholarships for 3D printing, additive manufacturing, for other advanced manufacturing programs that don't fit that machining apprenticeship mold, right? And you guys have already impacted lives in Arizona here with those that donation that you have sent to us. So yeah, it's amazing. I can't thank you enough personally, and would love to get you out here for a skill up event here in the future as a great partner.
Yeah, I would love to. And that's one of the things that with having all of these programs, it's how do we see the impact that it's having on people? And I love it. So I love hearing the stories. I love what everyone is doing to try and impact the community. And so, yes, thank you for what you're doing with Skill Up.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let me see. I'll tell you exactly where your money went. You bought pens, giveaway pens for when we go visit trade schools and high schools. So that's what you guys, you're directly impacting the future of manufacturing. So that's awesome. Amy, your background is super diverse, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've got drafting, you've got design. I didn't even know about cutting hair, right? Hairstyling, which is another apprenticeship program. That's another skilled trade. And sometimes that one gets left off, but it is a skilled trade and something that, is definitely needed for
Yeah.
some people, not maybe for me, but that's okay. So how have your different backgrounds, your different experiences that you've had shaped your approach to running ShopFloor Coffee and leadership in this space?
It's a good question. I think it helps me to see just a broader audience of where people could benefit from what ShopFloor Coffee is trying to do. I don't trying to think how to word that. Um,
No, I thought it was a great
yeah,
answer. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's working with such a diverse group of people, because people that are hairstylists, they talk to people all day, every day, and you get to meet a wide variety of people in that area. Working at an IT industry and working for kind of a reseller of IT equipment and services, you have a lot more engineers, and it's a completely different subset of how people communicate, even, and
Yeah.
how to work with different individuals and kind of personality types.
Hmm.
And so I think, and then going into 3D printing again, you still have a lot of the engineers, but you're working with a lot of customers that, again, have very diverse backgrounds, very different industries, everything from aerospace to education, medical, dental. Like, you get such a wide variety of people that I've been able to talk to. And I think that's been the biggest takeaway for me, is just learning how to try and work with other people and navigate that. I don't know.
That's awesome. No, I
Yeah.
love it. And that, I mean, I ask questions all the time. There's no right or wrong answers. These are your
No.
lived experiences, right? But
Yes.
that was a great answer. So, was there, other than sitting down with Mike, who's a great guy, and so happy you guys linked up over this, was there a moment before sitting down with Mike that you were like, I want to do something bigger. I need to do something bigger. I need to figure out how I can impact this community at a broader scale?
There was one point in my career that had really happened. I mean, I've always wanted to be able to give back. I mean, even in high school, I was doing some different volunteer programs and different ways to give back to the community. I think one of the turning points for me is just as I grew in my career in marketing. I always want to learn. I want to continue to advance and try and challenge myself in new ways. And I feel like before ShopFloor Coffee, I had kind of hit a wall when I was with the 3D printing company of, what do I want to do next? Where do I want my career to go? And I did make a change to a different organization, and I realized it wasn't a good fit for me. And that was kind of the catalyst of this. It wasn't a good fit. Now what? What do I do?
Yeah.
And I actually went down two paths all at the same time. I've always wanted to get my real estate license. And I think some of that goes back to my design background.
Yeah.
Is I love architecture. I love looking at homes. I have a great eye for um, how you can change the footprint of something to make it more usable and accessible and functional. And so I've always wanted to do it. So I finally decided that I was going to get my real estate license. I started that program. Well, right at the same time that I started that, Mike and I had this conversation, and we started ShopFloor Coffee. And
Got it.
ultimately, I thought I was going to be doing real estate full time with kind of coffee on the side. And it quickly switched, where coffee became this thing that I thought it was a great idea. I love what it was doing, but I thought I would be putting more time, energy, and effort into real estate and kind of
Yeah.
growing that career. And so, really, at the beginning of this year, 2024, was when I realized, no, this is something that can be really great. We can make a great impact. And I shifted. So now I'm still doing a little bit of real estate, but not as much as I probably could be. But I'm trying to put everything that I have into ShopFloor Coffee and really trying to figure out how to raise awareness, but also just making those connections again with the community and figuring out
Yeah.
how to make that impact.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love it. So talk to us about I mean, this is a manufacturing culture podcast, and we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to culture. You left because of that misalignment from a couple of jobs. It sounds like one of them might not have career pathed you, and then there was just not a good fit at another one. What's your experience been in any role, not just manufacturing, culturally in this journey, and what has that taught you about the type of leader that you want to be and the type of company that you're building ShopFloor into?
I think a lot of it comes to trying to understand the skill sets that people have, where they excel, and the areas that they have interest in growing and learning more about and are passionate about. If someone doesn't have that passion and is doing things that they dislike, they're not going to be happy. You're not going to get as much out of them. And so for me as a leader, I think it's important to look at what are the skill sets someone has and being able to figure out how to utilize those in a better way and be able to almost amplify that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing that I feel like when I made my change, I don't want to talk that it wasn't the right fit or whatever. It just I'm stumbling here because I'm trying to figure out how to word this the right way, but it's when I left the 3D printing company, I love that company. I loved the people I was working with, but I didn't see that career path and where was I going to go and how was I going to get there? How do you navigate that? And I think organizations are putting a bigger focus on that because they're starting to really see the impact that giving someone a path and direction can help them grow, and it helps their organizations grow.
Absolutely.
But it's hard to put it together. It's how do you do skill-based assessments to see where someone's going to be better? And then at the same time, when I went to the other position, it's listening to that person's passionate about before you hire them. Make sure that your passions and what your goals and objectives are aligned, and making sure that it's what everybody.
No, you're
I don't know
doing
how
great.
to put this. Yeah, it's more of like, how do you get aligned on the vision and direction of where that company is trying to go, and then making sure that activities that go with it fit that mold.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Get that.
With starting ShopFloor Coffee, we started looking at different operating systems and how do you put things in place. And it's like, if it aligns with the mission and the vision, you should start looking down the path and exploring different options. And sometimes I felt like a little of that was lost in some of my past roles.
Got it.
So even if it fit the mission and the vision, you didn't always get to work on the things that could help that. So
I get that. And I've said before, and I'll continue to say until somebody tells me I'm flat out wrong, the company culture is just that alignment of values between the employee and the organization. And sometimes that just doesn't fit for everybody, right? It's not, that doesn't, the word toxic culture gets thrown out there so often, but that's usually because that place didn't align values wise with that employee, because that employee has a different set of values, right?
And someone else might thrive in that environment, and it might be the perfect place for not only the organization to grow and the person to develop and continue to grow in their career. But if that's not aligned, it's just a matter.
Yep. Absolutely. So I've started a company, I've started a podcast, but I've never started anything that had a social mission associated with it. I'm sure that's brought up some challenges along the way. Can you talk to us about some of those?
Yeah. I think that I've mentioned, I think the one that's been the biggest challenge for me so far is really just kind of identifying where to make that impact. Because there are so many organizations that are doing incredible things, that to me has been kind of the biggest challenge when it comes to the mission of the company. I think from other parts of just starting an organization, there's so many challenges that come with it that, every day is a roller coaster, and you just got to ride it and put your hands up and go, here we go, we're going down the hill, and wait for you to go back up again. And you got to do it. So
Yeah.
I don't know. As far as challenges, I don't know that any of the other challenges have really been anything that others haven't been through. It's navigating accounting, legal, all the other aspects, supply chain, shipping. I mean, looking at the operational side of everything. It's what almost any new company has to go through to navigate how to either sell a product or service. And so there's challenges, but I still think the biggest one is really navigating this piece about how to make the impact that you can.
Yeah. And I get that because, yeah, to your point, there are so many organizations.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, Skill Up, small organization. And I know that a lot of other states have small apprenticeship programs. So
Mm-hmm.
how do you vet what is going to have the most impact and where is that going to be? So yeah, I get that challenge.
Yeah. And the mission, I mean, it's great because the customers that are looking to purchase the coffee, they're passionate about the mission and they want to give back, but they're passionate about specific organizations that are within their communities. And so
Right.
that's the piece that we're trying to navigate is how do you get that to the local level so that the people that are making the purchases that are allowing us to make these donations, that they're seeing the results of what they're doing, basically.
Absolutely. So how many people are employed by ShopFloor? Is it you and Mike? Do you have a bigger team than that?
Right now it's just Mike and I, and we have some great partnerships. Mike and I are not experts in coffee, and so we're really building those partnerships with the people that know coffee. So we have been working with a roaster in California. We're working on moving to a Minnesota roaster so that we can be a little bit closer to it, have a little more control of what's
Very
going
cool.
on with the processes and everything. So I would say they're not an employee of ShopFloor Coffee, but they're a key part of the organization and helping us get to where we need to go. We are looking to be hiring a salesperson here in the near future and bringing someone on board to help us and really continue the growth, as well as I have big plans to grow the team really next year. So lots of stuff that are in the plans and trying to grow the team and help as many people as we can.
That's awesome. What's next? I mean, you're saying that you've got big plans, right? You want to grow the team. What's next? Are there ancillary lines? Are you going to start like roasting in your backyard? What's next for ShopFloor Coffee?
It would be really cold in the middle of winter trying to roast coffee back there. I don't think we're going down that path, but it is something that will explore the options of additional products and what we can offer out on the shop floors. I can't confirm or deny where we're going with that yet, but we are looking at what are those future innovations and how do we get new products into the hands, and especially I think one of the things that I think about right now is there's this new coffee culture that's out there. People are realizing what good coffee is and the different ways of brewing good coffee. And I mean, you've got pour over. I mean, Keurig is still huge. You've got cold brew and all of these other things that are out there. And so we want to make sure that we're providing the products that the customers want and need. And so we will work on product innovation. We don't really know what's next. I mean, right now, Jim, the thing I'm focused on is trying to get to IMTS and figuring out how to get there. With a small team, it takes a lot, and we're super excited to be there, but there's a lot going on. And so it's right now that's taking a lot of our energy and focus is just getting prepared to see everybody at the trade show. It's going to be great.
Does ShopFloor have a booth at IMTS?
We will have a booth in the Student Summit.
Awesome.
I don't have the booth number yet, but I'm hoping I should actually have it Monday, Tuesday next week. So I'm just missing that. But we're in the Student Summit right by the amphitheater. And then we're also supporting the Datanomics booth. So they've invited us to serve coffee in their booth and provide that to their customers. They have this great report called, they have two different reports. One is the coffee cup report, and I can't remember the name of the other one right now, but it was a perfect connection, and we had met at a different event, and they invited us to be in their booth. So I could pull up that booth number, but I don't have it in front of me either. So,
send it to me. Send it to me, and I'll put it in the show notes when this episode's released. I'd love to come hang out at your booth for a couple hours if you need somebody to come help man it.
Well, careful what you ask for there and or offer there, because I think we're already having my mom come to help us, and hopefully
awesome.
We'll have that salesperson on board, because we also are sponsoring the Miles per Manufacturing, since
awesome.
All the money that goes to that event is given to workforce development and STEM programs. And so it was just a perfect fit for us to sponsor that event as well. Yeah. And we're a sponsor for the women's, the Elevate Women Make Manufacturing Move reception that's on Monday evening. So we have a lot of stuff going on, and I still want to walk the show at some point. So I will probably take you up on that offer.
So one of the things I loved about our initial conversation, your bio, is your seeming ability to balance work and your personal life, right? You seem to have a very healthy work-life balance, Amy. Reading and workouts, and I mean, morning workouts every day. That's tough for anybody. So how do you balance that? How do you make sure how do you get that intention to be so balanced between the two?
I think for me, it's just, I make it a priority, having that life and figuring out how to schedule it. So if I did not work out in the morning, I probably wouldn't work out. So I think I started this in 2012. So 12 years ago, I started going to the gym at like 6 a.m., getting the workout done. I shower, I get ready, I would head to the office right from there. Right. And it really set up a really good routine to kick off my day. And I just kind of kept it going, even when I was just getting some of the new business ventures started and I didn't have as much going on. I still went in the mornings and kept that same routine. So some of it is build a routine that's sustainable for your lifestyle, and it's prioritize it. You have to make yourself a priority. Otherwise, you'll lose a lot of that. And especially in other organizations, it's important to get all of your work done and do what you say you're going to do and commit to. But it's also really important to set boundaries on, for the most part, I'm not going to work till 8 p.m. I'm going to try and be done by 5 or 6. And, there's certain times when I was in my corporate life that there were big events coming up that you have to put in that extra time, and that's fine. But then I would, maybe take a Friday off and try and balance it out in a different way. And then when I became a people manager of folks that were planning and executing on events, if they were working over a weekend or had a whole bunch of overnights, it was like the next week, make sure you're taking the time off. You missed out on a whole bunch of your own personal time. And to me, it's just so important that you get that and that you feel empowered to be able to try and have that work-life balance. So again, looking at the leadership style, I just want to make sure that it's balanced that way. Now, when we say about like reading and stuff, I mean, I'll tell you right now, I'm reading the book of the Science of Hiring for a Sales Team. So while my reading may not be fun stuff right now, I still try and read when I can. And a lot of it comes down to learning. When I go on vacation, I want to read like a mystery novel, and I will just sit in chair and read and whatever. And that's when I really enjoy the fun reading. But
I get it.
Otherwise, I'm reading to kind of educate myself and figure out what I can be doing different to help advance what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, I love that. It's great. Yeah. So I would add good coffee into the health and wellness sphere, right? Would you agree with that statement?
For multiple reasons. I think coffee can be a community activity. It's something that can bring people together to create conversation in different ways. And if it's terrible coffee, people don't want to hang out and actually enjoy that cup of coffee. So to
Right.
me, that I think is super important, that good coffee can help build that camaraderie and inspire creativity. And so I would say that that's one of the things for me
Yeah.
that
I love
makes,
it. So, and the reason I ask you that is because that, to me, just in my experiences, that's one of the things that a lot of our shops is missing is that health and wellness side of things, right? These are
yeah,
people who are working very hard every day, sometimes, just eating truck food.
yeah,
Um, or not getting maybe as much exercise, or living that health and wellness type lifestyle. And so
yeah,
somebody who works out and is on that continuous learning pathway and provides coffee that is manufacturing focused, right? Is that part of your mission at
yeah.
ShopFloor Coffee? Is that health and wellness lifestyle type resurgence, I guess?
I think to a certain extent, I hadn't really thought about it in this context though. So actually,
Okay.
Jim, you're making me think of something completely different that is a way to talk about how coffee can be a benefit. I think one of the things that we've been thinking about from a coffee perspective is not only people just deserve to have better coffee, and it's
Yes.
something that it's out there. It can help bring the community together from getting people to talk to each other more in the break room or that kind of stuff. But I also think it's the employee satisfaction side of it, and changing the break room culture or the way the break room is can help that employee satisfaction. It also can help the health and wellness. And what I mean by that is we are partnering with different organizations that provide what I call office coffee solutions. They might provide the equipment, they'll ship in coffee, they'll keep your supplies up to date, all of that stuff. But they also provide market services and vending services. And when we start thinking about it, when you say a vending service, I initially think of the vending machines that we had growing up where it's, Doritos and Snickers bars.
Maybe a honey bun every now and again, or a Pop
Yeah,
Tart, or some like super
exactly.
healthy food. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But those markets have changed drastically over the last couple of years, as you're seeing more farm to table type stuff. You're seeing fresher items in those market services. And I do feel like within the manufacturing space, especially what I would say in more of that small to mid-sized manufacturing space,
Hmm.
that isn't an offering in those facilities yet. And
Yeah.
while some have it, which is fantastic, I think it can increase that employee satisfaction so much more if they do have more options and there's healthier food choices and just better coffee. And I don't know, I think there's ways of changing that break room situation that would promote health and wellness and just that whole side of things.
I love it.
Yeah.
I let's go back to your experiences as a leader, and let's talk a little bit about some advice that you have, because you've been a people manager, you've managed teams, you've led teams and had success with them. What is, for somebody who's looking to move into that next stage of their career, what is the most important leadership principle to you?
Oh, most important leadership principle. I think it's truly listening and
Mm,
and taking in what someone is trying to communicate to you. I think a lot of times we will listen to the beginning, but then you start trying to come up with how you're going to respond to someone, and you
yeah,
lose half of what they've talked about. And I think that's something that is a huge leadership principle that needs to be worked on by everybody is really truly listening. And then I think the other piece of it is just learning about other people's personalities and what works for each person.
yeah,
Someone might learn best by seeing and doing, while someone else might work best by being shown, or just there's different learning styles, different communication styles, each person is so different that it's really trying to understand the personalities and the skill sets and everything of each of those people. So that's, I think, probably the biggest leadership principle for me.
Cool.
Is just really listening.
Yeah, and I get that. I mean, you can tell when somebody starts thinking about their next thought because their eyes kind of glaze over and they go blank and they're looking over your shoulder instead of at you and all of that stuff. So yeah, you can tell when somebody does that. And I made a lot of mistakes as a leader early in my journey, and listening was the center of a lot of those mistakes where I was trying to multitask while somebody from my team was trying to talk to me. And so I learned to shut my computer when somebody walked into my office and things of that nature. So I really love that. What were some of your like missteps, mistakes, failures as a leader through your journey?
I think one of the things that stands out to me early on, this is the first time I was a people manager. I was working at a jewelry store, and I kind of ran our back office and inventory control. And I had an employee that I would tell him to do something. And while most of the staff and I got along really well, this person and I did not connect as well. And the feedback he gave me, he's like, it would just be better if you would ask. Instead of telling me to do something, ask. Hey, could you go do this? Instead of being like, hey, I need you to go do that. And so for me, it shifted my mindset of, okay, even though this person still needs to go do this, it's how you're communicating it and trying to deliver that message. And I think that was one of the first things that really shifted my mindset when you are a people manager. But you know what? I kind of want to ask you the same thing. So, from a leadership, what were some of the principles that really stood out to you?
So, communication is, of course, very key. But a lot of, to me, the leadership, you can't have great communication without good emotional intelligence. And to me, that is the cornerstone of what I teach leaders to develop within themselves, right? Is that emotional intelligence, that EQ, learning how to recognize and validate your own feelings and emotions, your own mindset, so that you then can communicate in a healthier way, right? Whether you're excited or you're angry, you can communicate more effectively when you have that understanding of your own emotions and where you are. So to me, that is that foundational cornerstone, because you can't really you build better trust when you have a higher level of EQ. You have better communication when you have higher levels of EQ. You can have, you can create a culture that really is human centric when you have that higher EQ. So to me, that's my foundational cornerstone, but that's just me, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I ask you, because I think that leaders all have a different foundational cornerstone when it comes to leadership principles, but that doesn't mean that one is more right than another, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But I just think as a leader, we should always be growing and evolving. So hearing that
Absolutely.
and that emotional intelligence should be something that's continually worked on. My next question to you is, well, what would be like top 2 things that you would say to help try to for me to work on my emotional intelligence? Are there like activities or things or that you would suggest someone to do?
So the first thing that I would do is I would suggest that, you just take a pause, right? Anytime that you're feeling anything outside of like baseline normal Amy, take a pause and really work to understand what it is that you are looking at or feeling and why, right? So I have a sticky note that has lived on my computer. I can't take it off because I've now actually taped it on, that says respond versus react, right? So looking at life and situations from a logical perspective versus emotional perspective. And I'm not saying that emotions are bad, but emotions, when you start to feel emotions beyond baseline, they can make your decision making process
Yeah.
change, right? And so when you are able to then take a deep breath, really understand what you're feeling at that moment, you're then able to and validate. You have to be able to validate your own emotions because nobody else is going to do it as well as you are, right? And you can't truly move on to the logic side until you validate that emotion. Hey, right now I'm pissed off. This is why I'm pissed off, and it's a valid reason to be pissed off. Then all of a sudden you can say, oh, the logic side of your brain kicks in and you're able to say, oh, okay, now this is how we're going to address this, right? For some people, it takes longer than others. I recommend the 24-24 rule, where if something happens to you, you wait 24 hours before addressing it. If after 24 hours it still bothers you, you need to address it within the next 24 hours. So within 48 hours, you have addressed the issue, but you've given yourself time to think and logically process
Yeah.
everything that's going through your head. So that would be my little couple of tips there for you.
No, that's helpful because I mean, we all get emotional from time to time about something or triggered by something. And so
Absolutely.
it's great advice to just stop, not respond immediately because that is a reaction instead of responding. So I love that.
Absolutely.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I, yeah, that was fun to be asked a question. So thank you. I love it. So Amy, let's talk about future entrepreneurs, right? That are looking at starting their own business. Like we talked about, it's a tough deal. For me, it's been somehow simultaneously the most exhilarating thing I've ever done and the most terrifying and anxiety inducing thing I've ever done. What advice would you give to somebody who is like, I'm done working for the man. I'm going to start my own gig, and here's what I want to do. What's the piece of advice you would have for them?
I think, well, I want to say follow your dreams. And if working for the man is not your dream, I fully support you following your dream, but have
Yeah.
a plan. Try and put together what you're going to do and how you plan to achieve it and how you plan to become successful.
Mm,
Because ultimately, there's so many entrepreneurs out there and there's so many programs that start, but without a plan, it a lot of times doesn't go where you think it will. So if you
yeah.
build that plan in the beginning and put that work in, whether it's before you start or right as you're starting, build that plan so that you know what you're trying to achieve and the goals that you're trying to hit. I think it's incredibly helpful. So that to me, I think was the thing that I spent a lot of time on in the beginning is what is this plan? How will it become successful? What does that look like over the next 30, 60, 90 days? But then
Yeah.
also 1 year, 3 years, and then ultimately, what do we want to do in 10 years? And
Yeah.
where do you want it to be? And I mean, for most people, it's also how do you get out of it at some point? You're not going to want
Yeah.
to work forever. So that should be a thought in the plan. But a lot of times, as you're starting something, you're not thinking about it. And
Yeah.
so that's my whole thing is really sit and think about the plan and whether or not you have the skill sets to do everything that's in that plan. And maybe if
Mm,
not, maybe you need a partner. Network
yep.
with people, grow that network, and find the advisors that can help you navigate that path because a lot of people have been down this path and gone, started something new from scratch. And
Yep.
what I've found out is people are so willing to talk about it and what their journey has been and the points that they've stumbled on. And So utilize that network and build that plan.
I love it. Great advice. Great advice. I've found that the biggest thing that the advice that I give people that have asked me a similar question has been, you're going to have to adjust. You're going to have to adapt, right? Like, I look at the pathway of my first company, right, that I started 2.5 years ago. I've rebranded now, changed my go-to-market strategy like 3 times.
Oh yeah.
I've, had conversations with people and asked them why I wasn't being successful, right? And it wasn't like, what am I doing wrong? Is my offering what the industry needs, what the market needs, right? And what I learned was I had a plan, but my plan was bringing to market something that the industry didn't want nor need in the beginning, right? And the first iteration of my company. And it was an ego thing on my part where I said, this is what I think the industry needs, right? It wasn't what the industry needed. And so I've had to adjust now to and listen to the industry and the shops and the people in this industry. What do you guys need? And how do I fit into that? Right. And so that ability to adjust and adapt, to me is as equally as important as having that plan, because that plan will get you to a point where all of a sudden now you're not making money, right? Okay, how do you adjust to get to that next level without just throwing in the towel? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And that's a really good point, that once you have that plan, it's looking at the plan, and I try and look at it every 90 days and look at, are we still on track? Are we still heading down the right path, or do we need to check and adjust and change messaging, change your target audience, change the product portfolio, whatever it is, change to make sure that you are fitting those needs. But at least with the plan, you kind of have a guideline of where you're trying to go, and then you check and adjust. So, I mean, it is that healthy balance of that.
Yeah, I love it. Amy, as we start to wrap up here, I've got a couple more questions for you, but most importantly, how can the listeners or viewers, if they're on YouTube, I always forget to say viewers, so sorry, viewers. How can listeners and viewers get involved with ShopFloor Coffee and support the initiatives that you guys have going on right now?
I mean, easiest way is buy coffee. I hate to say it that way, but buy coffee. You deserve better coffee. Supports the community. Buy coffee. But it's, that's the easiest way to get started. I think the other thing is, if you have a facility or organization or group, we're looking for feedback as far as who to support. So feel free to reach out to us. Contact at shopfloorbrands.com is an easy way to reach out if you have questions about anything. If you have facilities that you want to explore options, you can reach out to us about that as well. Follow us. We have some fun TikToks out there, and they're getting posted. So follow us, comment. I don't know. I mean, those are kind of the key ways at this point.
Awesome. And so they can go to shopfloorbrands.com. Is that the website?
Shopfloorcoffee.com.
Yep. Shopfloorcoffee.com. Love it.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, folks, with that, that's a wrap on today's episode of the Manufacturing Culture Podcast. Amy, thank you so much for being part of this journey. This was an awesome conversation. And like we were talking about before, this is the relaunch of this podcast into getting back into the stories and less solutions and all of that. So thank you so much for being on today. Loved our conversation.
Well, thank you, Jim. I really appreciate it. And it was a lot of fun.
It's amazing, folks, to see how Amy is blending coffee, community support, health and wellness, leadership principles, everything that she's going on. So support ShopFloor Coffee. When you do, and I'll put the code in the show notes, use the Skill Up code for ShopFloor Coffee. Send more, profit sharing or donations. That's the word I was looking for. I'll cut out the profit share. Send your donations to Skill Up Arizona because you're helping support the next generation of machinists and advanced manufacturing employees here in Arizona. Folks, if you loved this episode, don't forget to check out more at themfgconnector.com. Also, be sure to follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. Stay in the loop on stories and updates. Also, follow ShopFloor Coffee because their TikToks are pretty funny and they're way better at it than I am. So, folks, I really appreciate your support. If you've enjoyed the conversation today with Amy, please share this episode with your friends, colleagues, your grandma, your kids, whoever will enjoy a conversation about coffee and manufacturing and culture and leadership and all the things. Also, if you have a minute, please leave us a review, rate and review this show on your favorite podcast platform. It rockets us up the charts. There's some funky algorithm where if you rate and review our show, then more people find us, which means that I get to do more of this. So please rate and review the show. Folks, thanks for tuning in to the Manufacturing Culture Podcast. Keep building, and keep making an impact in this industry. So until next time, have a great day.